Hey friends, welcome to another episode of That Spiritual Girl Next Door. This episode has some cool Wizard of Oz theming. We're a little somewhere over the rainbow, and I have a feeling we are not in Kansas anymore, Toto. This episode really gets to expand our minds and brains a little bit more about some extraterrestrial energies, some new Earth energies, working with galactics. Sarah Huckabee is our guest, and she has a podcast over at Coming Out Galactic. And we had a wonderful conversation about coming home to yourself, self love. There's no place like home, right? I keep finding these themes. There's no place like home, and we're not in Kansas anymore. That's really all you need to know for this podcast description. In this episode, we explore how Sarah has found a sense of home within herself through self love, leading to a deeper connection with her guides and her inner self. Her journey also includes working with Heather over at Quantum Healing Within. Heather's a QHHT practitioner, and together they co-host The Portal, a space for spiritual growth and healing. Members of the portal get a unique monthly membership that provides deep layers of physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual healing. Members access guided meditations, group hypnosis sessions, and this new thing they call Starship Healing, where they work with new earth frequencies in every session. Join us as we dive into these powerful energies and explore how Sarah built her relationship with the galactics. She will give practical exercises to strengthen our connection to who we truly are. So join us. On to the show. Hey, Sarah. Welcome
Hello.
to That Spiritual Girl Next Door. I wanted to preface with telling everybody how wonderful and generous Sarah is with, this is Sarah Huckabee. I sent her a message on Instagram and we connected, and within a day, here we are. This whole podcast thing is a little bit new to her as well. She is with Coming Out Galactic, and we'll talk a little bit more about what that means. But we're both just thrilled to just push past our comfort zone and do the podcast thing. So I feel like she's a kindred spirit, and we're sort of in the same realm with where we're at with our podcasting journey. But Sarah, you can take it away. Tell us a little bit about who you are and what S do you call it SH frequencies, like the business side and then the
Yes.
podcast, what all you've got going on.
Well, that's a great place to start because, well, okay, that's what I have trouble with. So I'm
Yeah.
Sarah. I feel like I'm just a seeker of truth. And so whenever I first started that, so I don't have labels or anything. So if even if I wanted to, I'm like it doesn't fit. Nothing fits. But that's great because that's what I desire is just to be so expansive and see what it's like to be actually multidimensional. So I'm testing out that as a human to see what it's all about. And I love just reporting back of my findings. And then what I'm finding is other people have the same itch, I suppose, for
Hmm.
expansion. And so we're just like all here growing together. And it's just fun. And it's connecting like this, where
Hmm.
I've met you, what, 5 minutes ago?
Yeah.
And it's like it was just easy,
I
simple.
know. I
So,
felt like we should have hit record earlier because it was just already everything we said previously to me was it. You're like,
yeah,
"Well, I wanted to give you a little bit of background of like why I'm here and what I'm doing,
yeah,
but I can't because it's like I'm doing this for the exact reasons that you just
yeah. I
mentioned."
think that we're just finally all showing up.
Mhm.
And now it's like, I don't care anymore of what the details are. I just want to do this, and I'm just gonna do trial and error, even like with this, the StreamYard that you're using. I use
Yeah,
Zoom. It's because it's all I knew, and it was
right.
a place to get started. Is it the best? I don't know.
I
I'm
don't
here
know.
just trying things out for the fun of it, and it seems to be working out. And that is my whole thing, is like anytime I'm curious and I want to seek a little deeper, it opens up whole new doors of opportunities, and you just keep walking through doors the more that you just stay open to possibilities. So with me, yes, I'm Sarah Huckabee, but what kind of stinks is, well, no offense to her, but
Yeah.
where I'm from, Sarah Huckabee is a governor of Arkansas.
Mhm.
So anytime that you look up my name, I feel like it's already taken.
Right.
So I came up with SH frequencies because, well, it's Sarah Huckabee, SH, and then also I was doing Starship Healing, so that's another SH. So SH made
Ah,
sense, and I work
yeah.
with frequency, so I was like, okay, so I'll just put that name together.
Mhm.
But still, I'm like, I don't know. It's like because I'm really kind of coming back into honoring Sarah Huckabee,
Mm.
me,
Yeah, that one.
because I was trying to get away from my name for so long because it came with a lot of baggage. of just the human experience, but now I'm like, I'm in love with my name and myself, and I can't it's so interesting to say that because that I think is what my longing has been for this whole time, and even through the guides, the work that I do, all of that has led back home, which
Mhm.
I do wanna talk about that too later, of just coming back to self and honoring who you are in this process. So yes, SH Frequencies, which is funny because it's my website, but I'm kinda in a transitional period because 'cause I'm like, do I keep that name or do I just use my name even though people, when they Google
Yeah.
me, are gonna find the other one?
Mhm.
So I did the SH Frequencies just to stand apart from the governor who has the same name as me. But anyways, but yes, Coming Out Galactic is my podcast, and that's what I did change my YouTube handle to, as
Yeah.
well as my Instagram handle, because it used to be SH Frequencies. So
Okay.
I'm in a bit of a transitionary period. So where to find me? Well, you'll be led to me divinely if it's
It
meant to be.
That's how I mean, it
Yeah.
was wild. So, yeah, and my friend Ashley Goner interviewed Kate Rose, and
Yeah,
on
yeah.
her website was your interview, and it was just, again, the stepping I call it, like,
Yep.
lily pads or stepping stones, and then there you are, and as I'm going down the whole rabbit hole of all your different videos and offerings, I'm like, I actually was hoping to find someone in the galactic realm to talk to, and that was who I wanted to next, and then it just came on a platter, and then when you
Yeah.
answered, I'm like, "Yep, this is it." This is great.
Perfect. Um, and honestly, I could just keep rambling because that's just a part of but everything is so connected. So
Yeah.
I'll even give you this. When you reached out to me, hang on, let me put it in line, organize my thoughts here. So I had a dream. So lately, I have been having extraordinary insight, I guess.
Uh-huh.
I kind of already had them, but they weren't as solid. And
Mhm.
then throughout, well, the stepping stones, I would just piece it all together. But lately, I've just been getting chunks of
Mm.
information at a time that I don't really have to find to piece together. It's just all there.
Mhm.
So, anyways, lately I've been really hanging out with what I'm calling my higher self. It's like
Okay.
she's right there and we connect. It's so like right now it's not really my guide. So for the longest time for the past couple of years, I've had my guides in my ears. Um direct helping me and directing
Mhm.
me and all this kind of stuff, but right now it's my higher self, which is interesting because it's me talking to me.
Mhm.
But anyways, I had a dream and I was with my higher self, and she was just telling me that it was time, like, "We're here, like, you've made it." And I'm like, "What do you mean?" And she's like, "Well, it's the basically the destined timeline that, um, was set up before coming into this experience.
Yeah.
That timeline is established, and I can go ahead and jump on it if
Mm.
I'm ready." And I'm like, "What?" And she's like, "Yeah, it's time." And I'm like, "Wow." Anyway, so this whole conversation, but long story short, she's showing me a scrapbook. And she's
Okay.
like, "I've been admiring you and all of what you've been doing."
Oh,
And
that's
anyway,
cool.
so she's looking at this scrapbook, but it's the future. So
Mm.
I'm getting a glimpse of what's coming. But what's interesting is like you're going to be featured on podcasts. And I'm like, "Oh, this was literally the next morning you reached out." And I'm like, "Oh my God." Um, because it just showed me, like, this podcast featuring Sarah, and it has, like, my picture on, all of these things where I'm, like, either speaking engagements
Uh-huh.
and all this kinda stuff, but sh so in the scrapbook were all of the pamphlets and, like, the thumbnails,
Uh-huh.
and she's showing me, and I'm like, "Well," I was like, "This hasn't happened," and she's like, "Right." She's like, "You just gotta walk through that door." She's like, "But whenever you're ready," and I'm like, "I don't know if I'm ready." Anyways,
Mhm.
because,
Mhm.
I have this whole thing of, like, this fear of, like, leaving people that I love behind. I'm like, "Well, what will happen?" And she's like, "Well, that's something that you're gonna have to break through.
Mhm.
That's still a choice, but you have to understand there isn't choices, when you're in a higher state of
Right.
existence. It all is. It's just all there. Like everything that you love, everything that
Mhm.
is like near and dear to you, there's no more choices of this or that. It's this and that. It's like you can have it all,
You
but
can have
you
it all.
staying in that limited, well, then you're just going to stay right here and
Yeah.
you're just going to be waiting for something, but really it's just you're waiting for you to figure it out that there's no choice, there is no leaving
Yeah.
once you just accept the expansiveness of what is. then it's all yours. Everything that you dream, and you're not leaving anybody behind because they'll be right there with you. And I'm like, "Oh, okay."
And then you wake up from your dream, you're like,
And then I wake up and I am channeling like crazy. All of this stuff, it's like I had a download of every question that I'd ever pondered before. It's like I just knew things. I was just like rambling all day long.
"This was yesterday."
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my
Oh,
gosh.
wow. Yeah.
So how do
Yes.
you
Or
capture your channel?
yes.
Are you
Or it was
writing
the
it?
day wait, the day before then.
Okay.
So the next day, thank goodness. I was
Did
too
you
wired. Well,
Yeah.
actually, I didn't so when I woke up and was just channeling, I, like, sat outside even, and I'm just, like, getting all of this information, which I think you may have reached out to me that day, but I didn't respond until
Mm.
or you
Oh,
emailed
that's
me,
right,
and
email,
then
and then the next
yeah,
day you
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So I was, not in this realm, I feel like that day,
Wow.
but then when you reached out on Instagram, I'm like, "Yeah, let's go." Um, but anyways, I could just keep
I think
talking,
that
so
is so I
that's
have the
that.
exact same fear. I've done a lot of personal growth type experiences like retreats and different breath work and all these things that in the beginning I was trying to fix myself. And now that I've come home, because the way you describe it is perfect and we'll get there, I don't want to fix anything. I
Yeah.
love myself and I didn't
Ah,
really understand what that meant because I'm like, of course I love myself. I was like, quit telling me all this self love stuff. And then you realize what it really means. And for me, it's a feeling more than like love as we know it, like, oh, I am confident. I am, these 3D sort of terms. It's I can close my eyes and I'm there
yeah,
with myself. So that said, that fear of leaving all the good that I have in my life behind, if I continue to ascend and these things that you're exactly talking about, I don't wanna I have children, I have a husband, I love my life, I love living here, I don't wanna
yeah,
leave any of this, so what am I doing this for? Because I still have that push, right? But
yeah,
then I had the clarity that it just gets better. You're
yeah,
not leaving anything behind they're coming with you and to a place that you can't even imagine that's
right.
even better. So you
Yeah,
you
because that's a
describe it
limited
beautifully.
mindset,
Mhm.
to think that that something can't be a part of the
The good
greatest
yeah,
connection piece ever. Like, what?
yeah.
That's so now that I'm thinking about it, I'm like, which I'll just say I'm a silly goose for thinking that, but I wasn't, you know what I mean? I was still just, what I'd like to think is I was just like, I love them so much. I don't want to. It's like a martyr, even. You're still playing
Mhm.
into that mindset. And that's so not the truth of what truly
Well,
is.
it's
And
also you see people who have done all this personal growth and they get a divorce and then they go move to Montana and live in a van or I don't know. It's just
yep,
there's a lot of people that do, but they maybe needed to. But if you truly love and if you're happy with it doesn't mean that they're going to have to go away.
right. Yeah, exactly. What's funny is, that's exactly kind of what I did when
Oh,
I
I didn't know that.
that's so f well, kind of, you got
Okay.
but when that all of that was happening, it was honestly, I feel like an explosion
Mm,
of awakening, which now but looking back, it was built up, but then there was, like, this huge,
mm.
I would say, like, a nexus point, um, which I think I'm using that term correctly.
I know what you mean.
But
It all comes together. Yeah.
yeah, and so now looking back, I can see where everything was divinely aligned for that to happen, but then it kinda just happened really quickly all at once, so much change. But I ended up moving from Arkansas to New Hampshire.
Mm,
It's like I just needed to get away, and then didn't I mean, I didn't have my own place, so I car camped for a while, and I went to
mm,
Montana. So, and just kinda lived. Honestly, my car was my closet. Everything that
mm.
I owned fit in my car, and then I stayed, so for a while I lived in my aunt's house and then went to New Hampshire, stayed there for about a year, and then moved back to Arkansas, and then I lived
Okay.
in a camper in my mom's yard. But it
Mm,
was like it was like there was no life to go back to, but thank
mhm.
goodness, I wasn't married, didn't have kids, a little bit different situation
Right.
where I could just explore, like, what the heck? Like,
Mhm.
what the heck? Like, quit my job, did all the things. So I'd like to say I can tell you, um, sure, it's fun to do all that, but you don't have to do all that.
Right.
But I was a bit, had a lot to with this thing.
Mm,
That's been my greatest challenge, but I will also say I now understand for great reason because um, now my biggest thing like is like a new mind mastery. So I feel like because of my own challenging mind, I feel like I have like this outline to be able to help
Mhm.
navigating the awakening experience because it is um, so life changing, especially if you have no idea.
What
And
do you call
then,
a case study, Sarah?
yeah,
I like
yeah,
I
which I
like
was
when you
really
said
into
that.
psychology, so it kinda
Uh-huh.
honestly, that's the thing, it all fits because once you awaken it took me a while, but everything that I'd gone through, everything that I was interested in the I'll say,
Mhm.
like, a 3D realm, um, lines up with just a more expansive version on the next level. It's like you've already been dabbling in
Mhm.
just, like, level 1 of who you
Right.
are, and it just grows from there.
That is awesome. When you were talking about in one of I think the YouTube video about gifts and abilities, sometimes it doesn't feel like it's very rapid, and that the reason is that it's not overwhelming just for us, but for the collective. And I love
Yeah,
that because to me, and I've given had this vision of like a wheelbarrow, and that the wheelbarrow is the work, and I'm doing it, I'm going along, and then I'll drop it, and then I'll go
mm,
be a mom, and I'm still learning to integrate being the mother and the wife with the awakened version. It is
yeah,
integrating, but before it was, oh, this is my spiritual life and the work I do, and my meditations, and then let me go make the lunches for school, right? So it's the pick
yeah,
up and put down, and was often like, it's not happening fast enough. But you describe it beautifully, where it's not. You don't want it to overwhelm yourself, and because we came here to live in life, right? We
yep,
to live a life, but then the collective would be overwhelmed if we're all just waking up super quick and we're like,
yeah,
I'm psychic, you're psychic. Let's the aliens are coming to speak to all of us all at once. It would
yep,
just be too much. So the drip, I also say it's the faucet. It
yep,
drips and it drips for a reason. And
yeah,
I'm just saying that for people who might be like me that are like, all right, let's get this show on the road. What's happening?
yeah.
It really is nice to kind of sit back and let it just drip.
Yeah. I feel like because even whenever I think back, it's which only maybe textbook psychosis is kind of a bit where you're just like, "Oh
Mm.
god, like, what is real?" So if we all did wake up at the same time, we can't all, like, just drop out of life and go,
And
venture
you
to
have a degree
Montana.
in psychology, is that right?
Yes.
So and that
Yeah.
probably helps keep you grounded,
It does.
because
But if anything, it has it yeah,
or maybe in a
yeah.
bad way, because
Well,
sometimes, right, I'm going through a psychosis.
it no, that's a great way to put it. I never thought about it that way. So, um, that's interesting. Probably so.
Mm.
Um, so yeah, thank you
Well
for bringing that to my attention. I feel like it has. I
well,
never
and
thought of it
tell
that
me how
way.
you bridge the gap from, okay, hearing 'cause for me, it's always been my inner self that I think that I'm talking to and I'm hearing. And I have a hard time discerning like guides from inner. So
Mm,
I'm always interested in how did you go from talking to your guides and then, oh, here, hey, inner self. Oh, hey,
yep.
galactic beings. Can we go there?
Yes.
Jump right in.
Um, yeah, no, that's great. So what I'll say first, so I'm trying to think because at first I didn't know. So it's
Mm,
not like it just happened. It's not like I
right.
was experiencing things and then automatically knew like, oh, you're the Pleiadians. Oh, you're the
Mhm,
Arcturians. No idea. So I will say I have always felt um, uh, a bit of a driver or someone helping me navigate through life, and that's
mhm,
been ever since a child.
mhm,
Where I've always just felt, and even that the trees were alive. You know what I mean? Like so, like as a kid, I've always which I feel like all kids are like that. So it's
yeah.
honestly comparable to that is like when you um, are a kid and maybe you feel alone, but you also feel that there's another, that you're not alone
Mhm,
or that there's something there. So it's honestly taken me back to that feeling. It's like, oh, I felt this as a child.
mhm,
And then what is it? So the thing is at first they show up how okay, in love. So at first you may not be able to discern one uh like galactic frequency from the next, and that's okay. So honestly, I would encourage to not try so hard to
mhm,
figure out who is who, because that will unfold. And honestly, the unfolding process is so fun.
mhm,
And so like let that be an unfolding because that's um exciting in itself. So what I'll say, and actually I wrote this down, and it's perfect. So guides, what I feel like, are whispers of all the things that we overlook about ourselves and show us the receipts of why we are worth all that we desire.
Ooh.
So if you ever want to connect, I would say start. This is I'll just say it. Okay, I would write. I love
Mm.
writing. And when
Yeah.
you write, it like free flows, or if you
Mhm.
just like talk out loud to yourself, but do it in the version of you that likes yourself. Be like, "This is what I like about myself," and then just start there of, getting to know yourself, or like, "So what lights me up?" And then you just write, like, what lights you up and why? When did it first happen? And then, maybe what are some things that you do behind the scenes that maybe people don't notice? Like if you smile at strangers, or if you see that's, like the kind gestures that you do that aren't broadcasted, like
Mhm.
the goodness about yourself that only you notice. Write that down. And what you'll find is when you're in that frequency, it's a self-love, it's a recognizing of yourself. Um, then honestly, you'll feel like a support team boosting that to encourage you to be like, "Oh, you remember that one time that you did this for that lady?" That's why I'm like, they'll show you the receipts
Mm.
of all of the little things that maybe you overlook about yourself. Or being like, "Do you remember when so and so came to you and you were open and you were able to give them this response and you helped them?"
Mhm.
And then they'll take it even a step further. And this is how you can tap into just the innate abilities of humans, is like telepathy, that intuition. And what I have found is like whenever I sit, which kind of in the beginning, and just sit and recognize the true version of me, not who I present to be,
Mhm.
but truth me, you'll find that most people I feel like are pure. It's like
Mhm.
there's this innocence because
Mhm.
it's not like you have to put on anything for anyone. So when you get to that version of yourself, that's when all of these other people who are your biggest cheerleaders will be like, "Yes, yes, and I want to show you
Mhm.
more about who you
Mhm.
truly are," because that's what they are, they're truth. And so we come here as a human, we have like this vessel that can probably, so think about it like this. Uh well, I'll just, what's an example? I'm not good with electricity, but it's because we're electric beings and it's
Yeah,
like this
yeah.
frequency. So we can only hold so much voltage. So, we come in with just maybe like a bit, quarter of our true soul. And then that's more of a like third dimensional living, but the consciousness of the collective Gaia, everything's rising. And so that allows for this to hold more of an expansive frequency.
Mm.
So it's like, think of it that we have like this, um, like what do you call it? Like a filter or a funnel. Think that we
Mm.
have a funnel, and our container is getting able to hold more. So we're constantly funneling, um, more of ourself in, but it's when we can recognize who we already are and expand in that, if that makes sense. I'm kind of
Yeah.
getting all over the place now.
No, that's beautiful. I love
But
that as an exercise too.
oh, great. But
Yeah.
like, but with the guides, the more that you get to know the pure essence of yourself, that's where they reside. They reside within your truth, not so if you're continuing to live from a persona that you're trying to project out, you're
Mm.
not going to find them there. You're going to find them being like, "Hey, do you really want to do that? Is that really lighting you up? Is that really your truth?" They lie within the whispers of directing you to your truest self. So when you can connect with your truest self, all of that will be found.
Oh, that's so can you give me the alternative with your higher self? If that's where
Well,
is she from?
okay, so
Sorry, that's a hard question.
no, 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 no. So I feel that is so on. This is going to be the first time that I feel like I'm going to try to explain
Mhm.
this. And this is my perspective. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
sure.
Like all of this is subjective to the
What you
experiencer.
feel. Yeah,
So
absolutely.
now I understand my higher self because I've gotten, I know that's who it is because it's me. It's who I
Mhm.
am. It's who I've always been. That has been covered up by the mask, the personas, the identities created to survive. But now that I don't have those anymore and I'm just allowing myself to be, it's like that higher version of self, which is just our purest, most expansive form of self, can then emerge because it's always been there, but we just hadn't had room for it because we can more funnel in the truth of who we are when we let go of who we're not. And
Mhm.
so then you can fill yourself up with truth. And once I feel like at that point you filled yourself up with truth, then you become your higher self. But
Okay.
how the guides go into that, this is well, it'd be kind of like your family, like your mom, your dad, your grandparents, your aunt, your uncle. So think about, okay, I'll just use this example as what would be like my dad would be Pleiadians, Arcturians would be my mom, Syrians would be my grandparents.
Okay.
Um, and so it's like as you learn about who you are, and you'll be like, oh, I have the sense of humor of my dad.
Mm.
Like, oh, I have the wise, this whatever wise way of thinking from my grandparents, the Syrians. And I have this quick wit and way to lighten up a room from my mom, the Arcturians. So it's like it's like your personality, but it's the true version of who you are. You get from those strands of your cosmic self.
Mhm.
So what I've found is like my warrior, my protector, my need to stand up for justice and all this kind of stuff comes from the Pleiadians. Like I feel like that is their essence is um this just the standing up for truth and however that looks translated through you. So as long as you just have that frequency, then you just being yourself is how you translate that frequency here physically.
Mhm.
So, like with the Arcturians, they have helped me beautifully with the healing work that I do because they're master healers. And they're so funny. It's like because they're just light. They're um, just this light essence about them. They're so sassy, but they're so funny. It's kind of like the people that are so bluntly honest and but you love it, you know what I mean? Because it's just the truth with through no filter, and it's but it lightens it up. It, like, has you look at, like, the darkest things with a light approach,
So were
and
you
that
meditating and then they told you who
oh,
they were?
okay, so here,
Or working with Heather, which we can get
working
on.
with Heather, so I
Okay.
will say, prior to Heather, I knew about the Pleiadians. They came to me first, but they came to me through like the internet, obviously, like YouTube, and it would be like the Pleiadian team of light, this or something, and I'm like, oh, it kind of sparked something.
Mhm.
So it's not that showed up in signs, I suppose, or that was just the first group that appeared everywhere to me
Right.
whenever I first understood like there's aliens, like what?
I guess
And
that's how
so
light language was for me, that whole thing,
oh,
like,
yeah.
it just like, why is it everywhere? But then it's not like
Yeah,
my neighbor sees it everywhere. So to your point, it's like,
exactly.
these Palladians are just popping up and you're like, "What in the world?" Okay, and then I'm
Yeah,
sure at a certain point you're like, "Wait, these are real?" And then you're like, "Oh, it is." And as you start
yeah,
to trickle in,
yeah,
okay. And take a step back. Heather is a QHHT practitioner, which is quantum healing hypnosis technique.
correct.
And that means that you've worked with her in sessions and been hypnotized and then
Mhm.
had some channels come through, or you are the
Yes.
channel and had some transmissions come through, I guess you'd say.
Yes. But I love that. So it's like, going back to they will present themselves to you when you're ready. So it's like
Okay.
when the student is ready, the teacher
But that
appears. It's
isn't
the
the
same
spaceships in your
concept.
backyard hovering. It means that there's a.
Yeah. And around that time, I did see a UFO.
Oh, okay.
Insane. Insane. I was like, okay, so they will. So it's
Okay.
like once you open the door to be like, okay, I'll be open to the
Mhm.
idea. They're just as curious and wanting to connect with us. They understand the connection between all of us. And so they're here to support the evolution of self and, Gaia, the collective whole thing. But it's one person at a time. We each have our own whatever. It is the whole thing. But so whenever then it's like you have the idea and you're open to the idea, you leave the door open, they will present themselves. So just trust those things. It's
Okay.
like trusting the nudges. So first it was Pleiadian. It
Mhm.
was that for the longest time. And then once I learned through, I was guided to different YouTube channels of, like, Pleiadians. I would read about them. I would just research. It's like I became obsessed. And then I recognized their qualities and traits. I'm like, I saw where it matched up with
Mm,
me. So it's like, "Oh, I do that too." And so then you can ask, so in certain situations where you find, let's just say, my warrior for justice or my warrior for truth. So in a moment where I'm trying to express my truth to someone, then I would be like, "Hey, Pleiadians, can you help me with this?"
mm,
Kind of be my support, my sounding board to help me stand like more sturdy as I'm delivering this truth to someone where I may have had like horrible anxiety or something before may not have spoken up, then I would say, "Hey, Pleiadians, will you help back me in that?" And then you find that they then move closer in when you trust. It's a trust system between
mhm,
the both of you, and they're so respectful. So I don't think that they'll infringe. I will say the tricksters and all the others will, but any of them, well, through my experience, so respectful. And if you are feeling like unsteady or whatever, they will back off. They are
mm.
not going to infringe on you if you are not comfortable with that. So all I knew about with the Pleiadians, I learned about the Arcturians through Heather. So I will say I had a lot of help through this process. But that's also a beautiful thing. Whenever you trust the universe, support in
Oh, yeah.
all directions will be provided whenever you're ready.
Yeah. And you went in probably didn't go in, maybe you did go into the session wanting it to be galactic, or was it, or did you? You were like, "Let's see if
Well,
we can turn this up a little bit." But that would be
I
even cooler if it was like, "Ooh, they're here."
that's the thing. I just have heard a lot of different, sessions online through
Yeah.
YouTube and stuff, so and then Dolores Cannon, read all her
Right.
books, and so I was like, "That would be cool," because I felt like I was very much like Heather was placed in my awareness, and honestly, the first time I heard her voice, I was like, "I know her,"
Mm,
and then was drawn into her group, and then just joined that, and then after my first session, she was like, "That was amazing," but I bought the bundle because in the
mm.
first session, I saw myself in the very first vision. I was this tall, this big blue being, and I was fleeing Atlantis. And all of that has been a story in itself, and just uncovering
Wow.
my history with Atlantis and my galactic self. So in that, it's like you spark a remembrance,
Mhm.
and so when you spark that remembrance, um, well, that's the whole. I feel like that's just what this all is us remembering who we are, and then coming back to all of that in this.
To
Um,
home.
yeah.
Yeah.
Um, so I don't remember if it was my first or second, because then in my second, the Pleiadians started coming in to channel through me,
Okay.
but it was so uncomfortable. And then I had to get help, and they were telling on me. Basically, they were coming through, and I'm like, "Oh my gosh," because they were telling Heather like she's resisting us, and I'm like, "Oh my gosh," but they knew what I was about to do, and they were like, "You." So with me, I will say they were a bit pushy, but I wanted it, but I was also
Uh-huh.
scared. So
Yeah.
they will push you,
That's good.
um, to step out of your comfort zone if you're wanting it, but like I said, if you there's really just a
If
cutoff,
you're
like,
like,
"No, I don't
"No."
want
Yeah.
it." Well, actually, once the Arcturians came in, I almost had to tell them to get lost because they were so much in my mind. But the Pleiadians came through, we were channeling a lot. Next thing I know, Emily's like or Emily, Heather's like, "I want to do another session with you. This is incredible. I feel like, I really wanna work with you."
Yeah.
And then she has a messages session through Emily who channels,
Oh,
and
okay.
then Emily brought through, information about me that was like, yes, talking to Heather, saying, "Sarah is the one who you have been waiting for to do the starship healing with."
Mm.
And I'm like, I just got here. Like, this
We're beaming up on a
I don't
starship.
know what's going
And
on."
that's what that is. So then you guys have devised a meditation, is that right? That you go to the starship.
We
Explain that,
so okay,
because
so
I've only heard a glimpse of that on your videos.
well,
Sorry if it gets too deep. Is it hard to
no, no,
explain?
not at all. Like, so that it's just when I hear myself say these words, it's like, "Oh my gosh, like, this is real life," but it's truth.
You're in a safe place. Yeah,
I
no, like
know,
this,
I
I'm all
know,
here for it.
I
Because 'Cause I'm like,
know,
"How do I get on the spaceship? I wanna
right?
see what's up."
So we started learning, and then it was like the first practice that Heather and I did where we literally um get taken on a starship. And you walk in and it's like honestly, it's whatever you need it to be. It's
Okay.
a consciousness in itself. So, you can experience it physical. I did it first, where it was like physical rooms, these physical tables, these physical, like crystal beds, like healing, technology.
Okay.
And so I did see that at first, and then I could direct people. So what we did was we had tandem hypnosis sessions where we would take them on the ship, and then the client would experience the ship. And but then they started evolving, and they were evolving quickly because um well, that's what I feel like my guides do is I don't ever get like stuck in one
Mhm.
place. Well, not stuck where it's like thinking that that's it. Like it's this starship, this room's on the left, that room's on the right. There's a big court. Like it changed every time I went, and they're like,
Oh.
don't get because it's like they didn't want me to have a fixed mindset
Mm.
about it.
Do you feel like if you want to put a label to it, you're remote viewing or you're maybe you're instead of remote viewing, it may not be a physical place. It is a frequency a place in the quantum,
Mm,
like a frequency that you're going to. It's
yep.
not like a physical like if you couldn't physically go there with your body, you would or you felt like you were. I don't know.
Honestly,
Labels are hard, huh?
it really is, because what I have learned, because I thought at first, which it has evolved, so it has changed. So at first, I did project my consciousness up on it.
Okay.
There's a hair. Sorry, it
So
was
like more
kinda
like astral travel. If you I'm just trying to
yeah,
grasp for a label just so we're yeah.
yeah, no, it's great because I'm trying to also think of words to describe it
Okay.
as well. So, I would project my consciousness upon it, and then it was like it was just there. And then, after that, it's like I then realized it came to me.
Mm,
So in time, I would project myself onto it, but as I developed, I felt like I could just close my eyes and attune my frequency to the same frequency as the starship, and it came within me,
mhm.
within my energetic field. So it's like I then embodied the ship,
Okay.
and oh, it's crazy. So it's like, once I became the ship, then I could then wrap the client within that space and it became even more expansive. It
Mm.
wasn't just a ship. They could then travel to, well, wherever they wanted to go. It was like almost like a time traveling machine.
And you're there together, your consciousness. Are you
Yeah.
seeing the same things in your
Yeah.
tandem hypnosis? Okay.
Yeah.
And
That's
nobody's
what,
describing it, and you're like, you're just sort of both there at the same I mean, you are describing it, I'm assuming, out loud. And
yeah.
so Heather is the practitioner, and
Yeah.
then you're with someone else being hypnotized, and then you're doing it together.
Yeah.
Cool.
I know, and then so they will say describe what they see, and they'll build it. So I was
Okay.
always in that I was always empowering them, use your imagination because
Mhm,
that's what unlocks so much healing, I guess you could say, and so much remembering
mhm,
is unlocking that part of yourself to see beyond to and then it's like so some people were like, "Well, I just see." It was very like they're like, "I just see, a room, there's nothing in here," and I'm like, "Well, what do you want to see?"
mm,
Well, then they would speak it or they would say it or like, "Well, I want this," and I'm like, "Then say you want it, like, play with that, play with your consciousness to build, because in this space is, like, where you have that instant manifestation." So I'm like, "What do you want? What do you wanna see? Do it." So it was like building that up. Um so there would be times where people were going through things and then they would be shown like where the root of like a physical issue or an emotional thing that they couldn't get past, it would find the root of it and they would try to explain it, but then I could see it's like almost even deeper. So it's like they would see like a surface level of it, and then because I was in this space, I was like the guide showing them
mhm,
a little bit more to take notice of. And then it's just kinda like that, and then they could then it kinda opened them up to something brand new because that's really what any type of physical or emotional ailment is like
mhm.
this dense, like hoarded energy. But once you like give them or give anyone a nudge to see it differently, it shows them the another door, and then it just like expands, or it is able to be released.
Mhm.
And then
Mhm.
once the baggage or the density is released, then you open up to more of the truth of who you are. So that's all that it is just removing all of the things, all of the limits, all of the boxes that you've just kept holding on to. And the more that I feel like just empower dreaming and empower your imagination,
Mhm.
the more that you then play with that, you open all the doors, because then you recognize, oh, you can really create anything. And sure, it starts in your mind, but then you start in your mind, but it develops a feeling and it feels
Mhm.
good.
Mhm.
And then you practice that feeling, and that's how this works. Then you just bask and you feel and you play with the feeling, and eventually it will
Then that can
manifest
be your
somewhere.
reality. That feeling is your
Yeah.
reality.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay. Do you guys have that on your YouTube? I haven't seen those yet. Where
So I feel like a lot of the sessions are on Heather's YouTube
yeah.
because I was too afraid to post them on mine.
Okay.
Because I was still hiding behind that quantum healing within brand. So quantum healing within is where you can find a lot
Okay.
of sessions and channeled messages. Heather has an incredible channel where I'm on, because I'm still very limited on what I post on mine. But as of
Yeah, I get
today,
it.
I'm so
You're
Kelly,
here
you and I
right now.
together, we're gonna be like, we're going to do just a little bit better, like
No,
in
well, we were definitely meant to meet, and
yeah,
we're gonna have to grab each other's hand and pull me through
yep,
the doorway because I need a little push. That, hey, you're gonna be like, hey, if I'm posting this, you've
yep,
got to post this.
deal, deal.
Okay, can you tell us about the portal,
Oh, yeah, the,
your
what
membership site? Isn't that what
oh,
it's called?
yes, so
Mm,
we have, it's Quantum Soul Portal, which is just this community space where we do have, I think, 4 sessions a month where we do starship healings. We have
okay.
2 a month, 1 in the morning, 1 in the evening, depending on the time. Well, for other people, because we have a lot of people overseas. So we
Mm,
try to just make that easier for everyone to be able to at least attend one, but they're all recorded. So there's like
okay.
archives of so much stuff, so much material. And then we have what's called New Earth Mastery, where Emily channels, which honestly, I'm going to say right now, Heather is posting yesterday's New Earth Mastery session.
Mhm.
You need to go listen to it so you can
Okay.
get a feel of. So the Arcturians are basically the ones who, I'll say, like MC. So people within the portal have questions. They'll put their questions up. Heather will read them to Emily. Emily will answer, and depending on who the question most aligns with, because like there's so many beings that show up, but usually the Arcturians bring it through. Um, but they're so funny. Yesterday they were so unhinged. You will get to experience the galactics in a way that you didn't. You may not have understood. They're so funny, and they kind of pick on each other too. Like, honestly,
Okay.
the Arcturians always pick on the Pleiadians. That's their thing. But yesterday, I've never seen the Arcturians act like they were just like on some comedy show. They're so funny.
And now,
So,
Emily, is she a trans channel? Is her voice
oh,
changing with each thing?
yes,
Okay.
yes, yes. She's absolutely amazing, in the way that she channels. So within that, you have access to that session once a month, which is amazing. You get so many bizarre questions asked, or and then understand so many perspectives. It's all about growth and seeing things differently. So, and then we have, then Heather does a meditation each month, where it's like this guided journey, and she can take you so deep. Like, she's her voice, and it's a channeling too. Um, but it's like this whole journey. And then every 3 months is an added, like a quantum, like a hypnosis session, but it's in a group setting where you visit past lives and then takes on, well, it's different each time, but there's so
Okay.
much material within there. And then we have an aligned group where we work specifically with the Syrian beings who are here to help basically unlock the organic grid, helping us to connect more to it. So it's a lot of, I'll say, activating,
Hmm.
but this energy is so blissful. Oh my gosh. Whenever I get out of those meditations, I don't want to do anything except for just like bask in that all day long. I'm like, if I could bottle that up and sell it, I would be. That would be all I have to
That's
do because it's
incredible.
like an elixir that just takes you into this tranquility, but that's like a natural state of just being. Um,
It's
but then
like
we
your galactic guides have all the modalities covered within the
Yeah,
portal. I mean, and it's so fascinating to me because a lot of these things obviously have been, I mean, they're, I'm just trying to say like the collective right now where they're ready to show up too. This is that
yeah.
was the message I'm trying to.
Oh,
So you and I
yeah.
are joking about how we're scared to show up, but they're maybe feeling the same way where they're finding people that like we're ready to show up to and not be
Yeah,
afraid of who we are because it could be other guides and other modalities and other people bringing this information, but instead it's them as a team.
yeah,
And I think that's sort of a microcosm, which is actually the macrocosm. Like that's the joke, right?
exactly.
Like this is actually what's happening on the big level right now.
Yeah. It's insane, and what's funny is, like, the galactics are so down to earth too. Some of them. They all have different personalities,
Which is
about them.
ironic.
So, like, yesterday, one of the last questions that we asked in the New Earth Mastery session was, "We're gonna, give it over to you, like, is there something we didn't ask that you wanna tell us?"
Yeah.
And the Arcturians were like, "Oh gosh, well, now we're nervous. Now we know how humans feel. You've put us on the spot. We don't know what to say. You just want us to say anything? Oh my gosh, like, where do we
What
start?"
did
And
they
they were
talk about initial contact?
oh,
What are their thoughts?
well, they tell us in the portal, they're like, "It's you. It's when we can embody that frequency, we are the aliens." And
Mhm.
I get that because I am unlike any person that I know. So it makes sense. Well, I take that back. The people within the portal, but at least in my like maybe my family, I've always been the weird one. So it makes sense that I'm the alien. But that's what they say, and they say that they are in our skies, because a lot of stuff is going on right now, and
Mhm.
they're basically just making sure that it all goes smooth, or as best that it can go. And if anyone tries to get sideways with us, then they're there to intervene. But they do say that they are closer than they have been, as far as in our skies, and due to all of the things that they pollute the sky with, we would be able to see
Mm.
them had it not been full of all the toxic things. And especially with the mysterious fog and all the mysterious things that are going on that they're trying to cloud our sky for some reason. But from their perspective and what they say, it's because they're here, through this time as we are opening up and basically taking our power back, and we're seeing that everywhere. Like, the
Mhm.
truth is, like, you can't stop it at this point. Like, the consciousness is rising, which everyone thinks that it maybe just looks crazy and chaotic, and yeah, it does, but that's the awakening journey, and we're
Mhm.
doing it as a collective, so we're seeing everybody's dirty laundry right now.
Mhm.
And, it's not that it's getting bad, it's that we're finally bringing awareness to it, and awareness is the first thing in cleaning house. It's like doing a massive healing journey for our world, our
Mhm.
country right now, especially. Um, but as far as disclosure, they're pushing that agenda to know that we're here because we're con when that's that's just inevitable with evolution, is coming back to our star roots, our galactic origins. And if we're working towards an expansive consciousness, well, it involves them. And if we can, like what I'm doing now, I feel like they were very much pushing me to do the Coming Out Galactic, to get to know them in a way of they're our friends.
Right.
Um,
It's not a scary thing. It's
right.
yeah,
They are
people don't
here
need to be
to
it's not Independence Day. We don't need to be afraid.
Right,
Mhm.
yeah. I mean, the ones that are bad, they've been here. Like,
Mhm.
they're the ones that are the reason that we're needing to get out of such a mess, is because of the infiltration that's been going on, that's been kept secret, is because there are already interdimensional beings here that have been making a mess of the human race. So there's nothing to fear out there because all the bad ones are already here. We're
Mhm.
trying to clean house. Um, and a lot of it too is, even like within government and military, like those are the forces that we need to be afraid of. But what's going to happen, what I feel, I don't want to say that,
Mhm.
what could potentially happen, is they will try to turn the blame on the ones in the sky to
Right.
keep the focus away from what's already in house.
That's my feeling as well on it.
Yeah.
And, it sort of, again, pushes us who want to raise our vibrations to connect with the goodness of ourselves and
Yep.
um, the world. And it's not just our universe as we know it that we're connecting with. That's what it's interesting to me that um, all these messages of we are one within the media, like if you watch the Super Bowl halftime and all these things that it's like we're divided, but we need to come back together. It's not
Yep.
just about America. It's
Yep.
not it's bigger than that now.
Yeah.
It's like that's the petty stuff we need to let go of and
Right.
realize we're a lot bigger than that. But I think that people who are feeling the collective chaos energy, because I'm with you, I have a hard time discerning.
Yeah.
Wait, that's not me, 'cause
Yeah.
my opinions and thoughts are not there, but I'm feeling it,
Yeah.
often, and having coming back to home and reminding yourself you don't have to play that game. You can let that stuff be theirs and, be grateful that the that the chaos is stirring it all up
Right.
and that we can stay grounded and yet raise our vibrations at the same time. That's like people, "What can I do?" Well, that's what you actually have a lot of power
Yeah.
in a time
Yeah.
that feels really powerless.
Yeah. And what a more like just a beautiful place to shine within. Like that's what we came here to do. So when we say when people say a light worker, they put so much responsibility on
Mm,
that. But like right now, all you have to do is be yourself. You are the light in this chaos. Like a lot of dirt is being thrown up in the air in this darkness, but you just being so true in who you are is the light in the dark. That's how you are a light warrior. You're just penetrating through all of the um all of the shadows that are being exposed right now.
and
So
that
that's
minimum, that exercise that you explained about how to go into yourself and really feel into who you are and the goodness, that's a light worker right there. Even if
yeah,
you just did if everybody did that exercise, can you imagine what the collective
I
vibration would feel
know.
like?
Because like the hardest part I think of all of it is like so many light workers can see the light everywhere except in
Mm,
themselves. And so that's the biggest thing. It's like the hardest thing to do is probably where your mission lies. And if you can see the good within yourself, and that's the whole thing. I feel is recognizing it, and one, it's like giving yourself grace of who you before you knew better,
right.
or, like, you're like, "Oh, I've done all these things," or that was me. I'm like, "Oh, I'm not worthy." Like, "Who am I to say all
Mhm.
these things because I've done this and that?" And they're like, "That makes you so worthy because like, you have the experience of going through it firsthand." And then that too just builds on your frequency. So whenever you have gone through something challenging and you've overcome it, that becomes a part of who you are. It's a very strong frequency that you hold of that, the overcoming. And so if you
Right.
come in a
That
presence of someone
warrior
else,
frequency
yeah.
you're talking about.
And so when you get in the presence of someone else who maybe has that vulnerability that you once had, but you hold the overcoming frequency, the warrior frequency, just being in your presence will help them to, to work through that
Mhm.
and to, become more true in who they are just by you holding a frequency. I feel like, um, that was me. I was like, "There's so much I need to do. Like, what do I do? What's my mission? What's my purpose? Like, what am I
Mm,
supposed to be doing?" And they're like, "Just do your best at being true to who you are and getting to know yourself." And of course, that's a healing journey because you have to get rid of everything that you're not. But through that, it's honoring your process, because it's such a beautiful thing that we've been given here. And I feel like it's the greatest love story of all is coming
oh,
back
yeah.
in love with yourself. And then when you fall in love with yourself, you fall in love with everything. And it is like this magical, honestly, it's like this cosmic love story. Then you just experience love because you've embodied it, you see it everywhere, and then you live in it. That's that's 5D and beyond.
Yeah, yeah. That's and this is the love story that you speak of, for me, was never anything that I understood except for, like, maybe religion growing up.
Mm,
The feeling of Jesus and that when people describe that, I never got there in my
yeah,
childhood. Like, my I didn't long story short, I didn't really go to church that much. My household was divided. My mom took me to church. My dad he didn't care for it, so it was up to me to determine, which is really cool. But I grew up in the South, small town. What church do you go to is like the first question people
right.
ask you when you meet. Anyway, when you hear about people's love for Jesus, you almost like, I want that. but it never was something that resonated with me because of the man-made constructs
Right.
around church and religion, right? But then you don't need all these labels and these again, it's there. It's right with it. It's within you all. What's the Wizard of Oz quote? It was within you all the whole time.
Yeah. Yep.
Um, and that
Very
it's
true.
accessible. You don't have to go anywhere for it.
Yeah.
You don't have to put money in a in a
I
bowl.
know. It's so true. But it took me a long time to get to that understanding though. So if there's anyone listening who is
Right.
beginning their venture and going crazy, um,
And
yeah,
this is not
it's a process. It's such a
a
process.
bash on religion either, because
Yeah,
if you can
no,
get
yeah.
there and it feels good, that's the point.
Right.
But
Yeah.
if you can't get there and it doesn't feel good, all is not lost either.
Yep.
Um, but
Yeah.
so okay, I feel like we can wrap up here shortly because
Yeah.
I think ending on the love story with yourself is just a beautiful place to be. I want to, because some of these concepts are a little abstract. What would be something someone could do today to start to, other than your exercise that I loved about writing down some of the goodness in yourself? What would, if someone was just starting out and they're like, I want what she's talking about? What would you do? What would you tell them? I know
Get a pug. Just
that's right.
kidding.
We Sweet Pea is her pug.
I would, but I don't wanna disturb her sleep. She's so
Oh,
sweet.
you have to go on.
No,
This is a good plug for your YouTube to see Sweet Pea. You go to Sarah's
yes,
YouTube.
yes, she's so perfect, but I will say because she showed, like, that unconditional love.
Mhm.
So, nature,
Yeah.
going out in nature and honestly honoring it, seeing the beauty within it. Because if you have nothing, the nature is such a whole support team. It's like Mother Gaia, that what you're here experiencing is a nurturing being that is hosting you beautifully, that is encouraging this experience too. So if you don't feel like you can connect like outside of this realm, outside of yourself, you can connect with home in your environment.
Mhm.
So I will say go outside because honestly, your trees, your plants, or even your grass, or if you only have a house plant, or even if there's any type of nature, it doesn't matter how big or small. Um, Literally allow yourself to look at it as this alive being, as a consciousness, and honestly just recognize it as alive, as a living, breathing, energetic being. And if you just recognize that within, like I'm looking at my plant right now, like what do you want them to know?
Mhm.
Um, if you can recognize that, it's kind of like the same thing with yourself. It will want to open up like, "Oh, you notice me." And then in that moment, like, if you just follow it, like I have this ivy and it's like, this leaf, it's so green, it's so beautiful, and you keep moving through it, it's so vibrant and so full, and maybe, if I look outside, though, all the trees are dead, but that doesn't matter, they're so raw right now. They're
Mhm.
standing naked outside in the cold, growing deeper in their roots so that they can bloom more vibrantly in the spring.
Oh
Like,
yeah.
honestly, be so inspired by nature because that right now, even if you can't connect, it's okay if you can't. Not ev I feel like that's maybe not everybody's journey, but the most simplest thing that you can do is connect with the living beings that are around you, and that will also show you more of yourself because you're in this ecosystem with them,
Mhm.
and you can get to know them on that level of consciousness, of just being alive and green or even alive but dead, but they can teach you about this moment that I feel like is great right now, so maybe connecting with like the nature in the winter where they may look dead and gray and whatever, but honestly honor that process that they're in, that they're
Mhm.
allowing themselves to be so vulnerable and stand so tall and digging more into their self within their root system so that they can grow more expansive on the outer level, because the outer is just, I don't know, it's just an invitation to look beyond that and
Mm.
see it as a living thing. And when you can honor that process of nature and get to know that, that can also help and open you up to a lot of things as well.
Oh, I love that. That is such great advice. Sarah, I
Well, you can
loved our
thank my
time.
ivy. I'm pretty sure it whispered that because I
You
was like, "I have
channeled
no idea." But
you
then it was like,
channeled
"Hey,"
that.
I was like, "Oh, well, you're beautiful. I'll just talk about you."
Oh, that was perfect. I love the idea. I mean, even just it doesn't have to just be a sunrise or a sunset. That's the classic people
Yep.
feel inspired by these sorts of things, but it can be every day in the
And
wintery trees.
and one more thing, and
Yeah.
ask for signs.
Yeah.
Ask, "Show me." And so here's the I was because I did that at first, and I got feathers, so many feathers. I've collected so many because I would go somewhere outside in nature because that's what brought me, and I would just be like, "Help me." Or even if you say, "Help me." If there's no other words, they can feel you. And I would sit in that spot, and as I get up, there's a feather there, and I'm like, "It wasn't there whenever I sat there." And then you'll see that you are so supported, and if you just allow that support to come in and believe in yourself, it's destined.
Absolutely. You
Mhm.
can't make those feathers up, and that's
Mm.
that feeling, that frequency, that
Yep,
they're there, and they're thinking of me is
yep,
something you can really align yourself with.
yep.
That's really good advice too, because I guarantee you pick a number, preferably a 2 digit in my mind, because then it feels more secure. Like, oh,
Yeah.
that's 72 is wild that that's there 15 times today.
Well,
And then you're
what
gonna
I whenever you said that, I said 27, and you said 72. So we picked the same numbers.
no, my number is 27, but that's
You see what
it
happens when you let yourself flow? So 27 came into my head.
yeah, but I
That's
picked
funny.
72 because I'm greedy with my signs, which is not
Yeah.
that's
You're
not
like, "Well, if
like, I
you want
want
me for"
72 and 27.
that's amazing. Well,
Well, and here, I guess while we're at it, um, here are my here's just a couple of them. But I collect my feathers too, so
oh my gosh, and here you go, guys. We are kindred spirits that have found each other through space and time.
yep. It's as
Wow.
easy as that. Just
Yeah,
again, the whole reason for this podcast for me is make new connections and
yeah.
expand my mind with different ideas. So, Sarah, thank you so much because you have done that today, 100%.
Thanks. Thank you so much for reaching out, and this was incredible.
Yeah, this won't be the end. I'm gonna check out the portal and see what I can do and hang out with you guys and get some new experiences under my belt because it sounds
Sounds
amazing.
great.
All right, thanks. Hope you have a great day and thanks
Thank
for
you.
being on That Spiritual Girl Next Door.
Of course. Bye.